is there break times ever?
It's much more fun to look at a cute baby than an old lady, I'll tell you that right now.
But I love them both just as much.
Yeah, that's one thing about Michelle, she's got a lot of living in her.
So first of all, Luann's an open book and she's a sweetheart, and she tells it like it is. If it's blue, it's blue. There's no kind of shoulda, woulda.
So if you want me to tell my story, right? That's
Go
what you-
for it.
Alrighty, you want to hear a story, I'll tell you. Okay, I'm going my 8th year of stage 4 colon cancer. So, it was 09 of December, I was diagnosed. I was shocked out of my tree. I thought I was constipated. It ended up that I had a complete blockage in my colon. So within 24 hours, I ended up in an emergency room, got a general doctor, which was a mistake. But of course, we did not know that at the time because we did not know what we were facing. He removed the cancer, put an ostomy bag on me, and unbeknownst to us, he put a small kink in my intestine, in the small intestine. Of course, it was a mistake. He didn't do it intentionally. Then I went home, and within 10 days, I ended up back in the hospital with a massive bowel block. Went back home, ended up in the hospital again with a massive bowel block, so what they did is another big old surgery on me. After that, after I finally healed from that, they started aggressive chemotherapy on me to try to make sure the cancer wouldn't come back. So I'd go in for 3 months, do chemotherapy, which would aggravate that small intestine that had that small kink, and I would end up in the hospital. And this went on for, I was in the hospital 5 times, I had 5 bowel obstructions, and it took me almost a year to get that aggressive chemo done. So during that time, I was very aggressive with taking care of my body. Even though I was very nauseated, I ate very healthy. I did smoothies. I kept up an exercise routine of walking, biking. I go to the mall, I do the steps.
Okay, hold on. When
Go
you
ahead.
say biking, how many miles do you bike a day?
Oh, I try to get 8 or 9 in
Miles.
a day. I do it probably 5 days a week. So I'm very proactive with trying to keep my body put back together, even though I take a ton of supplements. I see a naturopath who gives me a lot of healthy tips, and then I come to Michelle. I try to do everything I can to keep this rotten body in shape. So after I got through that, then they decided to reconnect me after a year. At that point, that doctor found the kink, fixed the kink. So now I'm about a year and a half out, and that gave me a good window to really take care of my body. So by then, you think I'm thin now? I look like somebody blew me away. So I was probably 15 pounds thinner than I am now. So I began eating healthy, keeping up a routine of exercise, I'm a Christian, so I believe in Jesus, so I did a lot of praying. I read the Bible. I got myself involved in women's groups and mentoring and ministering with women to give back, so I didn't think about myself. Because when you feel rotten and you're always facing cancer, it's easy to think about how poor me. And I'm not saying I accomplished it, because I still do it. I still say poor me. But then it reoccurred, went back in, had another surgery. At that point, they decided not to do chemotherapy. In a year, it came back again. So at this point, we went back to that same oncologist doctor we'd been using, and they said there is no hope. This cancer has dropped down into a place we cannot get it. So my husband said this is not okay, so we flew to Cleveland Clinic. and set my records. We had a team look at me there, and he said there is a last-ditch effort. You can either choose to come to Cleveland, or we will find you a doctor in Phoenix. We chose Phoenix just because my son's in the medical profession, said, you're better off if you can find a doctor that you are close to, because you can end up in an emergency situation. Am I talking too much?
Nope.
That's very
okay.
interesting. Yeah,
Okay, so, went to the doctor here, they put me up with the whole team there, and they decided at that point to go in and remove intestine, my rectum, bag me permanently. It was an incredibly aggressive surgery. And then after that was over, I did another big old bunch of chemo, which almost did me in. Took my feet out. I've got terrible neuropathy in my feet. And then I created whatever is going on in this right hip, which is a burn, a pain that goes down my right hip that Michelle keeps working on. And don't know what happened. Don't know if it's sciatic or if it is burnt nerves or a cut nerve. Never could figure that out. Still can't.
And
So,
she ices her butt.
I ice
That's
my butt
She can't sit, that really gets her. And she'll, like right now, she's cold to touch.
Yeah, I
because
sat
to
on
drive
ice all
over
the
here,
way.
she sits on ice.
So
it's constant, that pain?
the pain is almost chronic.
But it has its own personality. Like one day it'll be like, okay, but we don't know why.
I don't know why. Some days I'll wake up and I'll think, oh, it doesn't hurt, and then it doesn't hurt. But for the most part, I go to sleep at night and I will take a Neurontin. I don't think it helps, but at least I'm doing something. I try not to take too much medication because I really don't know that it makes much difference, and it doesn't make me feel better. It makes my head feel dumb. So I do take that Lyrica. My stomach is very touchy, as you can imagine, from all the NG tubes, all the vomiting, all of the chemo. I sit on ice a lot. So then I took that aggressive treatment of chemo. I went another year and a half, and then it reoccurred. So this is now the fourth reoccurrence. So they went in and they did another surgery, took the cancer out. But prior to that, they did radiation. So I am now up to 49 radiation treatments. I can take no more radiation. And I did another bunch of chemotherapy. And then I did that prior to, and then they did the surgery. They were planning to do more chemotherapy after that to try to make sure it was a complete kill. And because of all the radiation, I got a massive infection in my gut. Ended up on 6 weeks of hardcore antibiotics.
That's I thought we were gonna lose her then.
Yeah.
That's when she came to me.
Yeah, I was pretty bad.
I was still in my old place, and Dave looked at me, and I'm looking at Dave, and he's just like, but see, after the surgeries and chemo, she always said it takes me 6 weeks. So she wasn't thinking infection. She's thinking, I've just got to make it to 6 weeks. And then I think the day after I saw her, she ended up in the ER, only realizing it was a bad infection.
Yeah, I went a couple weeks after the surgery thinking, okay, but I kept biking, I kept eating good, and so I actually biked the day I went into the hospital. But I laid on that bed and I thought, okay, something isn't right. Dave said, have you taken your temp? And I said, I better. So it's like 101. So I called the doctor and he said, you need to get in here ASAP in the ER. So they slapped me in the ER, run me through the mill again, and I ended up in the hospital what seemed like forever, till they could figure out. First they thought it was, what's the bad one? MRSA. They thought it was MRSA, so they yellow taped my room, yellow taped me, sent everybody in with masks, told me I had to stay in my room.
Dave couldn't see her, I think.
It was just terrible. I was just like I was in a cave. That was a hard
She and her
one.
husband are very, very, very close.
He's an amazing man. He has stood by me. I mean, he is such an awesome man. A marriage, you will know what it consists of when one of you hits the dirt. And he came forward. I never ever knew I had such a man. He never, I mean, he would sleep in that hospital. He did everything. So then they left me out of the hospital, and I thought, okay, this is not going to work. I'm going to take IV antibiotics. They told me that I was at high risk for C. diff. And so I hit the probiotic. I got the best probiotic I could. We spent a small fortune on probiotics. I took every natural thing I could think of to fight that, and ate more yogurt than you could ever imagine. And I actually didn't get C. diff. Did not get C. diff.
But I hope you guys realize all this she's telling you, if you looked at this woman and looked at her file, you would think like we're not talking about the same.
Oh, it's because I comb my hair and I dye it and I dress nice. And I put my Walmart makeup on every day.
You have joy in your speech.
Every day. So that ended. All that nightmare ended. And then a year ago, July, my numbers started going up again. And he said, oh no, the cancer's back. So he said, we've got to start you on something, Luann, because you are not a candidate for surgery. You have had, I think I have been opened up maybe 9 times, just a phenomenal amount of times, 50 radiation treatments and 3 rounds of chemo. He said, the only thing we can do on you now is chemotherapy, and it will be forever. You are going to have to ride this one out. And so I had a broken heart, but I said, okay, let's go for it. So they put a port in me, and they started a medicine called Victobex. And I started getting what I thought it was the flu. Actually, the flu was before they started the Victobex. My family had the flu, so I got the flu. Didn't think anything of it. Lasted about a weekend. I was in bed with a temp of 102. Flu was over. I was up and felt fine. 2 weeks, I got the flu again. Not a problem, just a weak immune system. Went to the doctor. I said, I got the flu. He said, well, no wonder you've got a weak immune system. So I got the flu 6 times in a row. And he said, no, that isn't the flu. He said, you do not have the flu. This is the cancer. It's growing. It's causing problems in your stomach. I said, you vomit and get sick with cancer? I've never felt sick with my cancer. He said, you can. He said, it's definitely a red flag. So we are going to start you on chemo because we can't just ignore the fact that your numbers are going up. And you're vomiting every 2 weeks and running a temp every 2 weeks. So he started the Victobex, and I got so sick when I got home for a couple days, vomited, everything else, but then I was fine. 3 weeks passed, going to give me another treatment. So they gave me another treatment, got home, vomited, ran temperature, sicker than a dog. And I came home and I was fine. So he gave me round 3 of this massive dose of Victobex, which was a big infusion. And he was also giving me pills by mouth, Xylota. You're probably familiar with that, 5-FU, if any of you are on a medical team. So after round 3, I got home and I got the flu again. Only it just never ended. I just vomited and vomited and vomited and vomited. And my temperature went up and up, and I tried to move and eat, but then I'd reached the end of that and I just laid in bed. And we didn't know whether to call the doctor or not. I did email him, tell him I was sick. He said probably side effect of the medicine, keep me informed. But then I went to the bathroom and the grossest thing in the world happened to me. Stool came out of my vaginal area. So I called the doctor and the nurse, and they were quick at answering me because I didn't cry wolf very easy. They knew when I said I'm in trouble that I needed to be somewhere big. Ended up, I had a fistula. So they did another big old surgery on me, fixed the fistula. The surgeon went in there and he took everything he could out. And he said, everything nothing showed cancer. But I don't know why your numbers are going up. It may have been the fistulas. So we were overjoyed.
That's a hole.
It's an infection.
And a fistula, it was a side effect of the radiation. I'm not sure how to explain how they are. Does anybody here know how to explain them better than me?
Well, it's because it's in the pelvic cavity, the lower intestines. The chemo or radiation or whatever will break down that lining finally to where there is a hole and it'll come through the vaginal
Right.
canal.
Okay, so what they thought probably made this fistula break was he tried to do a guided biopsy through my back to see if they could get that tumor. Instead, he got the fistula because he thought that was the tumor from the PET scans because they were lighting up. Because inflammation in my gut lights up. So then, of course, I did more antibiotics. And so they decided, okay, your numbers are up because you have a fistula, you don't have cancer. So they went down to 5, which we weren't real pleased with. They thought they'd drop down lower. Then they started going up again. Only this time they went fast. They started going up 10 points at a crack. So December, he said, we have got to start you on chemo. You are up to 50. And it was right before Christmas. I have a son with 8 children. They were coming to stay with me. We were headed into Christmas season. And my husband, in his wisdom, said, how necessary is it to start before Christmas? He looked at Dave and he said, she's feeling good now. We've got Christmas. We've got a large family. I'm not sure she wants to be sick over Christmas. How necessary is it? He said, in the terms of her life, it won't make any difference. You're right, Dave. Let's wait till after Christmas to start her. So I went through Christmas thinking, it was hard, but I have learned that I cannot, I just kept my biking up, my good eating, kept moving through, kept coming to Michelle, drove her nuts, and did everything I could.
She makes me cookies. How can I complain?
To try to get this body to not be painful and try to get a grip on this side pain. Other than that, I'm fine. My energy's good. I stay involved in as many things as I can, and I pray a lot. Thank the Lord a lot for the day I have. And then I went in January, and they had the medicine all lined up, and then instead of my numbers going up 10 points, and then I went to a naturopath, and she gave me everything she could imagine that would build my immune system up to maybe fight the cancer. She never ever said she could get rid of cancer. She says, all I can do is try to build this body up to put a bigger fight on. So I don't know what changed, and they were baffled. It went like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, then it went to 51 and a half. So he said, Luann, we're going to hold off a month. So that has been 6 months ago, or since December. It's not quite 6 months. And it continues to climb a month and a half. He's sending everything to Cleveland. Cleveland doesn't know what to do with me. Ironwood doesn't know what to do with me. I just underwent 3 45-minute MRIs, a PET scan. I'm doing a bunch of blood work today, and I go in Monday. They're not quite sure whether they should start chemo, if it's cancer, if it's inflammation, if it's the fistulas, or what it is. So I'm just like a target. Just wait. I just am playing that game.
Because you're only at like 55 now, right?
I'm like at 55, right? So, it jumped, boom, 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 which 50 is high. 50 is a very high CEA. My son is a doctor, and
What CEA, sorry?
it is 55. CEA is the cancer count. Should be 0. But with colon cancer, inflammation can also increase.
And for someone who's had 4 diverticulitis, not that I can compare to her, and that has lost her sigmoid colon, you need about this much of an infection in your intestinal lining to infect the whole thing or light up like a Christmas tree.
Right.
So it
So
doesn't
that's
take
what-
much.
That's what's happening is my radiation, I've got fistulas, I've got scar tissue, and everything else you can imagine going on in there. They can't see. They can't figure out what's going on. They can't biopsy for fear they'll bust a fistula and I'll end up into the ER again. So that they kind of don't know what to do. So what they do now is just scan the heck out of me and send me in every month to look at me. So I'm sure Medicare hates me.
She's maxed out her PET scans.
You know what? He's managed to override it.
Oh, good.
I don't know how Kalmati does it, but he manages to override things. So that as of now, Medicare, but I have another insurance. We bought another insurance. Well, what we did was we kept our old insurance and then took Medicare and Mutual of Omaha. So otherwise we'll get eaten alive with medical bills. So, any questions?
Oh, and during all this time, her husband ended up with bilateral knees done.
Yeah,
When she was having a good moment.
yeah, good moment he got both his
But
knees done.
they said he had to be up to biking 12 miles a day
Yeah.
and have his weight at such and such for them because he's like, listen, I can't be out for 2 surgeries. So they did both knees
They
at the
did both
exact
at
same
once.
time.
Wow.
That's rough.
It is rough, but he would do anything for her.
He would do anything for me. And like I said, any of you men that, and your relationship now, if it's not strong when you get older, life hits. But like I said, I give all the credit to prayer in Jesus Christ.
How old
And
were
sh-
you when you were diagnosed? Is that too personal?
Oh, I'm not very personal. I'm an old lady. When I got diagnosed, I was 63. I am now 69. No, I was 62. I spent my 63rd birthday in the hospital. So I was 62.
Were you super healthy when you were diagnosed?
This is what was hard for me. I was always very careful what I ate. I always worked out. I did my physicals. My colonoscopy was right on. And so, of course, they come in. The first thing they say is, why didn't you have a colonoscopy? I said, I did. They said, well, you couldn't have. I said, check the records. And they said, you did. And they looked at me and they said, colon cancer does not grow this fast. They just must have missed it. They said it must have been a flat disc that somehow got by, but I did not have a specialist do it. I just went to my general, and that's all I ever went to. I thought I was going to live to be 100 like my mom. My mom was 96, and when she died and was always healthy.
I'll take you facing me.
I always thought I would too, so I didn't
And her
even,
mom just passed, so she was just...
it didn't even
just a-
occur to me that I wasn't healthy. My symptoms, I did have symptoms in hindsight, but they were not anything that made me stop. Those symptoms were change of bowel habits is a red flag for colon cancer. But of course I didn't know that. But they weren't big enough that I thought much of it. I used to have this is gross, but a large movement AM. And then gradually, and I noticed it, but I didn't think anything of it. Actually, I thought it was good. I started going AM and PM. Actually, what that was a narrowing of the bowel, only releasing part of it. And then towards the end, I would tell my husband, because I always had a flat stomach, I would tell my husband, my stomach looks poofy. He would say, well, what do you expect, honey? You're going to be 63. What do you expect, to be flat like a 16-year-old? Made sense to me. I also had some gas, but all I would do was try to figure out my diet. Didn't think anything of it. But why I went to the doctor was about a month before I was diagnosed, I started getting constipated. And I went to my son's house, and I spent a couple weeks there, and I was constipated, which was very unusual for me. I didn't, I thought, well, it's because I'm sitting all the time, I'm eating her food, everything's wrong, that was what I thought, why wouldn't I be? She didn't cook like me, I wasn't eating healthy. So when I got home, I called my friend. I said, I am constipated and I can hardly eat anymore because these stupid bowels won't move. She said, okay, call the doctor. She told me what to take because she's a nurse. She said, go get this, this, and this. She said, that'll make anybody move. It was like a mineral oil. I don't know. She had me a bunch of stuff. So I took it and thought, I woke up in the morning. I thought, oh, I didn't go to the bathroom. She called me in the morning. She said, did you go to the bathroom? I said, no. She said, call your doctor. I said, for constipation? She said, yeah. So I called the doctor. He said, actually, you don't have cancellation. Just come on in, which was God. I got in there and he said, let's do a CAT scan, or let's do a scan. That's when they did them right then and there. So he did an x-ray, came back, and he said, I do see a lot of stool in your lower intestine. He said, I would say that you're just constipated for some reason. Here, go to the store and buy this, this, and this. And sent me in for blood work. What he did was a cancer count. But he blew it off as nothing. He saw something, but he didn't let me know. So I know he knew, but he just didn't say anything, because why would he? So I went home, I got that stuff, tried it, nothing. Maybe a little bit, but nothing. So in the morning, he said, if you don't go, you... So then the nurse called me and said, did you go? I said, no. She said, call him back. I said, you're kidding me. Well, they give it a little time. She said, call him back. So I called, and she said, just a second, is this Louanne Kloffenstein? The doctor wants to talk to you. So he came to the phone. I'm ready to go finish my Christmas shopping. My Christmas tree is up. I've got my house packed with food, gifts.
She's procreated like rabbits.
Yeah,
So
I've got
her immediate family is now what? 60?
I've got 29 grandchildren.
Oh my gosh.
So if you can...
5 kids.
You have 5 kids.
Yeah, and so they were going to be there for Christmas. So if you can
She's
imagine the amount of food I had stashed in my freezer, the amount of stuff I had, everything was ready to roll because we were going to celebrate Christmas, New Year's Day. And so I got this phone call and he said, you know what? I need you to go see a colorectal specialist, no, gastro specialist. The appointment is set up in 3 hours. You need to get there. I said, but, he said, Luann, I need you there. I said, what's wrong? He said, we looked at your blood work. I said, was it good? He said, well, some of it was, but there was a number I was concerned about. It's your CEA. I said, what's that? He said, it is your cancer count. And I thought I was going to fall flat. I was standing in a room alone. I nearly lost my mind. I said, well, what was it? He said, 90. I said, what is it supposed to be? He said, 0. I said, do you think I have colon cancer? He said, yes. So my daughter picked me up. We went in there. My husband was was not home. He was working. And I said, well, I'll just go alone. She said, you will not go alone.
Angie.
So it was Wendy. So my daughter took me. So this is a 2-hour block. I'm standing there. They're looking at my x-rays. And she said, you need to head into the emergency room. You have a complete blockage. It is colon cancer. I said, how do you know? I said, are you sure? She said, I'm sure. So went home and we just went through ER, which was so stupid. And it was a poor call on her part. I should have had a specialist. But God's in control. I can't go back and get mad at them. I was mad a while, but I had to forgive that. Because, that actually was a poor call. And it should have not been as bad as it is. It should have been able to be managed from what it was, but it was not.
Can I just ask you just on a...
You can ask me anything you want.
A practical thing, because obviously you think very carefully about diet. So if you were advising anyone else in a similar situation about their diet, do you follow a specific diet or?
I'm pretty tough on myself. Only because it's the only thing I can do. It's the only thing I can do. I don't know that diet would make a difference.
Do you know?
But I mean, is it like a ketogenic diet, or is it a whole food diet, or?
You know, it's a diet. For one thing, I can't make food my idol, and I've got to be able to live.
Okay.
So those are two of my guidelines. At first, I was incredibly strict, and my daughter looked at me and she said, "Mom, when all you think about is food, then food has become your idol." My son's a medical doctor, and he said, many cancer patients spend so much time trying to live that they forget to live. And he said, you can't do that either. So I've had to figure out something that works. So what works for me is when I'm home, I do some organic, but as you can imagine, the amount of money we spend is over the top. So I've got to be reasonable about it. If meat is $12 a pound, I don't buy it. You know, if it's at Costco, you can buy reasonable organic. If it's not organic and I want it, I get it. I eat mostly fruits and vegetables. I try to stay with whole grains. I try to stay away from wheat. I limit myself on sugar. And so I have to eat a lot because I'm not getting many calories when you eat like that. So it's a constant eating fest for me because I'm always eating food to try to stay ahead of the weight
When
thing.
you know how coconut oil solidifies? When she's down and needs the calories,
I just eat it.
She will eat chunks of coconut oil like they're like potato chips.
I just eat it.
She'll have spinach and a slice of ham in her purse and stuff. And
Yeah, so I have to eat a lot. But when I go to my daughter's house and my grandson's having a birthday party and they're serving cake, I'll take a piece and I'll eat a couple bites. You know, if we go out to eat and then I don't, people say, well, where can you eat? I'll say any place is fine. So if we do Mexican, then I'll eat. I'll try to go as much as I can towards what's decent, but then I'll eat some of that dumb flour tortillas, some chips, and, you know. So I have to live because obviously I'm not going to control it completely. I just have to do the best I can.
Are tortillas bad for you?
You know, I try to stay away from wheat.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Only because the lady that I'm working with says as much as you can, this was her guideline, as much as you can, stay away from white. Because your intestines are compromised, wheat may be hard for you to digest. Maybe. So try to stay away from as much wheat as you can. She said, eat as much green as you can. Eat as much fruit that's low sugar as you can. And as much as possible, stay with fish and chicken. So those are my limited guidelines. I stay away from a lot of milk products just because of my compromised gastric system.
You stay away from them, or you have them?
I don't eat,
Okay.
I don't have many milk products, except if I'm getting, but that doesn't mean if somebody's serving cream and I want some cream, well, then I'll just have some. I'm not real strict. And my husband, he's not strict at all, and he's healthy. And he's 70. It's kind of maddening.
the only thing too with their relationship though, when she gets really sick, he doesn't know how to cook.
He doesn't know how to
save his
cook.
life.
It becomes a disaster.
And literally, like, she doesn't want to go to the grocery store because she's so nauseous, and he's like, I don't know what to do. You know, 15 kids, yeah, no.
He doesn't know how to He can make eggs.
So she'll literally start losing weight, and
Yeah.
part of it is
My kids try to take care of me, but, you know, he's just really not a cook. He can make eggs. He can make eggs, and he can do frozen food. But he's, you know, if that's his only fault, good grief, how can I complain about that?
But if he had to go crawl in a bed of nails for 2 miles, if
He
that
would.
inch, he would, yeah.
So no, I don't by any means think that I can control my cancer with my food. It's just, you know, I'm not going to be in charge of it. God is. It is the only thing I can do, is exercise and control my diet and keep my head straight.
She walks into chemo, and that's the first thing she just notices, that everyone is just, the sitting has started and it doesn't end. And she'll yell at people, you got to move, guys. You got
Yeah, got to move. Because overweight, I never figure out how people are overweight in chemo. But it's just that they don't move. And they eat to try to take care of that nausea. Because the nausea is grinding. because it like never ends. It just lives with you.
Doesn't it sap your energy?
It does sap my energy, yes, and sometimes my energy, I am lower energy than I was, but I just push myself, because if I push myself, I actually feel better. You know, it's like when you wake up in the morning, if you don't feel like doing anything and you sit on the chair for a while, you even feel less like doing it.
She always puts a face on. She'll walk into the doctor's office, she'll be going in for surgery, and that hair.
I put
and
my face on.
Yeah, she'll be done.
That makes me feel better.
She doesn't want anyone to say she looks sick or tired, so she's really big.
Although I do a lot.
What?
I do look sick and tired
No,
a
you
lot.
don't. If you notice, she doesn't slouch. When she walks, man, she's like tall like Magda, just that. And also, too, she's
Michelle
got siblings
pumps
that are
me up.
very close.
Yeah, I've got close siblings. I've got a wonderful
I work on her
family.
brother. He's just, oh my God, what a
He's a
son of a
stitch.
bitch.
Yeah, he is. He's a stitch.
How did you get here?
How did I get here? Oh, I was going for this hip acupuncture, and she worked on me a while, and she said, I can't help you. I do have one lady that might be able to. It won't seem like she's doing anything.
I get
She said-
recommended.
She said, but try it. She's a little hard to get into. She's a little hard to get a hold of. And so I called her, and she's been working on me ever since. What I really need to do is come here 3 times a week, but I live clear over in North Phoenix,
That's a drive.
And that costs money.
and it costs money, and I think she'd give it to me for free. I can't figure it out. That's not true. She's very reasonable.
I do take care of Louie.
Have you been coming through your whole, when did you start coming to see Michelle?
I think it was in 13, was it? Would you say?
It's a good 3 years.
3, was it been 13?
Because I can tell by the surgeries where she was at. I was
Yeah.
definitely well established when she got the infection and stuff, and
Yeah,
and when she got her dog, and
Yeah, I think
life
it's
events.
been, I don't know, I can't remember.
Because I don't even think Zach was adopted yet or in the picture.
Yeah, it might be 4 years. I've lost track. It's all kind of turned to a blur.
Her daughter's coming in tomorrow. Has been foster mother to 11 children. She's adopted one and now is working on her second one, but she has 3 of her own. So we're going to see her pre-granddaughter, who's what, 8 months old now? 9 months?
Maybe 9. So, and Sophia came here, she couldn't crawl or stand.
She's
And she clapped like this.
Was born addicted to 3 drugs: meth, cocaine, and heroin.
Poor
So
baby.
she cried like a machine gun.
And neglected 3 months in a foster home.
I didn't know that.
How
Yeah.
has you seeing Michelle helped you, do you think?
I'm sorry, what?
How has you seeing Michelle helped you through this whole?
Mostly my neuropathy. I want her to
Which I
fix my
haven't
hip, but she can't seem to get it fixed. But it seems to keep it from being on fire all the time.
I think because they actually took out her rectal, all the mechanism. First of all, she doesn't eliminate through the back end, so that affects all your muscles, your posturing, that bearing weight, that pushing through. You know what I mean? To just take it away. So that lesson that I actually had the front of my website on the hip was actually for Luann to do, which she doesn't.
Which one?
The one that I do about laying in bed and working on your hip and stuff. She's not too good. I try to get her to do the bands and stuff. She tries.
I don't do too good. I do the bands.
She's doing so awesome though.
No, she's doing amazing, but if
But I do
try and
that.
give
I
her a
do
little
that
bit of a home
push,
stuff,
that rectal push
okay,
thing. I
yeah,
do that all the
yeah.
time. But I'm getting close to. I fought it for a long time, but I'm about ready to submit to epidurals to deaden the pain with cortisone. I'm about ready to give that a try. I hate to do it. I've fought that for many years, but I'm about ready to try it.
And normally, too, I usually see Luann pretty constant every 2 weeks, and I will admit, like, since before Christmas, either
It's
because
not-
her life and the number,
Well,
I think maybe this is like her 4th visit this
and
spring.
you keep holding these. What are these called? Clinics.
Oh, so now it's my fault.
It's all your fault. Well, no, we
I'll
had
try and get her in. She doesn't answer my texts for days, and she's
We
like, I've
had-
got family here, which can be
we had
amazing.
January through this from January to August, we had so much company. It was,
Yeah, if you think I'm bad at saying yes, just tell them no, Luann, or tell them again.
I'm with a heart.
When she's got her one son has 8 kids, and she said there's not an electrical outlet in the house between everyone's with their apps or this and the phones, and there's never warm water because the tank's just being used constantly.
And they stay 10 days. My husband and I have gotten real good at it. He says, honey, there's stuff laying all over the place. I said, sweetheart, there's 12 of us living here, and then usually 2 of my other grandchildren want to say. I said, ignore it, put a smile on your face, enjoy the children, and walk over the mess, okay? It'll leave. It's not going to hurt anybody. You're kicking it, so you don't trip yourself. But don't pick it up, okay? Because my daughter-in-law's awesome. She tries her best, but then they all come over, so it becomes an impossible feat.
That's a lot
So
for the
she's
children.
gotten real good. She probably has giant crock pots in the house, and she usually says, like, I'll do the chili and you guys do the salad, whatever.
They help a lot.
pick.
They're a great help. But it's like a massive cook fest when they're there. But we do lots of fruits and vegetables, so that helps, and we grill a lot of meat. And a lot of the kids can grill now. So any other questions?
Is it, it's okay to lie on your side then? It's only sitting
I'll put you in your back.
Bolsters,
the white and the blue, please.
Say it again.
No, I was just asking Carol
Okay.
to help me for 2 bolsters.
My pain switches, so it's,
The white and the blue, right there in the same, yeah.
okay. The pain on this right side is fickle. If I could figure it out, it used to be that when I laid on my left side, the pain would go away. So up until about 7 months ago, so it's getting progressively worse. If I would lay on my left side, I could relieve the pain. So whenever the pain would start burning me, I would just go lay on my left side for an hour or a half hour, and then the pain would be released for a period of time. And used to be that if I laid on my left side all night long, in the morning I would wake up without pain on my right side. And then that stopped. It started waking me up in the middle of the night. So now what I do is it usually wakes me up about 2:30. It's just like, and I wake up and I got this horrific burn in my rump. So I get up and I have this big recliner. I pack ice on it and I put a towel over it, and then I take a gabapentin. And I don't know if they help, but it's at least something that I take. And I read my Bible a while, and I pray a while, and then I recline straight back, covering a blanket, and I lay on ice. I pack ice up my rump and up my back, and so that makes me very cold, so I cover the big blanket, and then I go back to sleep. And then in the morning when I wake up, sometimes it's on fire and sometimes it's not. But that has become another issue, is that I can't get a good night's sleep, which also isn't good.
And when you go biking, for example, does that help to
The
alleviate
biking is tremendously good for me.
Does it alleviate the pain? Or
It does not alleviate the pain, but when I stop moving my body here, when I stop the biking and I stop the walking, the burning increases, my leg gets worse, and my head gets worse.
Like, even if she comes in for a double lesson, like if it's her brother and her, so I'll work on her brother, and then she'll walk for that whole hour. She
Yeah,
won't stay in here. She won't sit down. She won't.
Sitting is my number one enemy. If I could get through life and never sit, I would be good. But sitting is my number one enemy. And it's terribly hard not to sit, because everywhere you go, they say, have a seat. You know, so I avoid sitting as much as I can.
She probably stands and gets chemo. I mean,
I walk around with my chemo pole. It's craziness, but I do, because I do sit some, because I get so tired of standing and walking. I can stand a while, but sitting is my key enemy.
what's it like to sit on the balls and things, does that make any difference?
Balls are good, and I need to get another one. I had 3, and they all ended up outside in the thorn bushes. Can you imagine? Don't take them outside, kids. But the ball is helpful.
And the sitting on your bike.
It's a recumbent. We've got bikes where we're laying on our back and our bikes are up, okay? So this part of me is up. I cannot sit on a regular bike.
Right.
It's a three-way, it's a trike.
Yeah.
It's a recumbent that flips my rump up in the air. And, we look like dorks. They're great big trikes, and they have big flags on them, and we ride all over the place. So, it's real dumb looking.
I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wear a big hat and sunglasses, so people are starting to know me, and they go, oh, there she goes. And when it's really hot, I just go walk in the pool, get soaking wet. Put my hat on, and away I go.
So then you're really getting the looks.
Then, oh yeah, I look ridiculous. But people mostly look at themselves, not you. Or care about themselves, I figured that out. But yes, I do think Michelle helps me. I really notice, for a while I quit coming because I get tired of paying her. And my neuropathy really heightened.
The foot one.
The foot.
She's like, all this time I forgot you were fixing my foot too.
I forgot, because it wasn't, I don't know if it helps my hip, but it doesn't hurt my hip. But it definitely helps this crazy neuropathy, which is a side effect of all the chemo and radiation. I don't know what it's the side effect of, which drug, I think I know, but.
But it also could just be your brain. I mean, but that's just.
I'm almost sure it's the chemo, because they told me it would come. And every time I'd go in, I'd say no, 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 but then it did hit me hard. And each treatment I got made it worse. And I asked why, and they said because the chemo tries to get out of your body, so it tries to go through your feet. And I get it in my hands some, but the bottoms of my feet would blister. Then they'd have to back off, or my hands would blister. So and then it would burn those nerves.
Oh,
Chemo's not a neat drug, but I am alive.
Luann told me once, she goes, like, people say, oh, I wouldn't go past blah, and she goes, Michelle, when it comes down to it, nobody wants to die.
They don't. Everybody tells me I'm not going to do treatment. I wouldn't do it. And I can't tell you how many of them have hit that fence, and then a friend of mine said, I wouldn't do that. And then she got cancer. And she said, I don't think I'm going to do it. And I said, you will. Sure enough, she did. When given a choice of life or death, you just don't take death. God's got an appointed time for me to die, and when that time comes, I'll go. But until then, he puts an instinct to live. It's like an animal. They'll do everything they can to live. And I have seen that. I've seen people come in there. They are skin and bones. Their hair is out of their head. They've got pimples all over their face, and they're taking another bag of poison to live just a little bit longer. I've seen it over and over again. It's an amazing thing.
I had one client, haven't thought about it in a long time. She was butchered. She had lung cancer, and the only way at it, they took out her 6 ribs and left her. And actually, one rib they left as a knot, just like sticking out, and it would poke into her. And she smoked cigarettes. She's still whatever. She was but I saw what was happening is she was dehydrating. And she said, I said, you need to go to the ER. And the guy goes, no, you'll know when it's bad enough, and then we'll deal with it. And I said, you need a new doctor. And she said, no. And I said, are you prepared? And she's like, oh yeah, when I'm ready, I got my ER bag. I said, no, to die. I said, you're flirting right now. I mean, if I could have, I would have picked her up in the car and said, she needs just a fresh pair of eyes. She died 2 days later.
Wow.
She was actually supposed to come see me, and she didn't come. And I put a call into friends of ours. I said, Pat's not here. Oh, I'm sure she forgot. I said, I was like it. Like, she lived for me. She just would come, and on oxygen and stuff, and sure enough, they found her at home in her chair.
Well, that's because
Not to say
Michelle,
Luann's there, but I mean, I'm just saying that.
yeah, that's because you cared about her and she came to get your love.
Yeah. Which I think for a while, that's what Luann thought she was getting from me, and then she.
Well, I was hoping you'd fix my hip. That was my hope.
Right. I tried. Like now, I just gave it a whole half hour.
I know. And probably, not tomorrow, but the next day, I'll notice that it doesn't hurt. I'll get usually one day. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But I do notice the neuropathy. So I assume, like Michelle keeps telling me, I'm all connected.
Hope so. But honestly, I mean, like I said, I don't know how she feels about it with her immune system. If she minds being touched, at least through their feet or something like that by you guys, but I'm telling you, her tonus for what she is, that she's, quote, 70 or just about, whatever, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And she always asks me, she's like, I'm going into the doctor, do I have cancer? And I said, you might have cancer, but not a tumor, and I've never been wrong about that. If she had a tumor, I would know. Her skin would, like, I mean, look at her, she's just gorgeous.
What do you see when you see a tumor?
Yeah, what's
Oh,
the difference?
so when someone really has cancer, like I know she says she's stage 4, but right now she's stage 4 with maybe some bits and cells, but they haven't colonized, you know what I mean? Like it's not in tumor mode. As far as I'm concerned, cancer does not oppose gravity. It's a mass. You might as well be just drank a ball. So the buoyancy's not there. It doesn't play well with others. It takes everything out of you, the nutrition. So I think that's why some people have little cancer and it affects them tremendously, because that's that getting out of the bed is hard. That's that fatigue, because you've got a mass inside of you, literally, that is succumbing to gravity and you're trying to work around it. But I also noticed too that, like here, like look at how, like, I mean she's got better legs than a 21-year-old, but she's not mushy. And I find people that are pretty cancer are very mushy. She also has no edema, or that I can really tell. I mean, she doesn't have swelling of the ankle. Holly can probably argue with me or not on that one, but you know, but again, she's very active. She exercises. She's,
I also drink a truckload.
water.
A lot of, yeah, I drink a lot of water. I don't do
Not
alcohol.
alcohol?
I don't do alcohol. No, I just don't. I don't know why, like I said, not that I think not doing alcohol will keep me alive longer. It's just something I can do. And when you're like me, you get desperate to do whatever you can do.
Yeah.
You just do what you can.
And why would you waste calories too?
Well, calories aren't my issue, Michelle, you know that.
No, I mean, I'm saying to waste stomach time
Yeah.
on wine when
Yeah.
you could be eating, your smoothie.
Yeah.
Thank you, sweetheart.
What was I going to say? I was going to say something, but I can't remember. Oh, yes. The one thing that they keep expecting and should do is it went outside my colon into my abdomen. Within the first year, about the first 13 months. Okay, so then the obvious place for it to go is my liver. So they keep waiting for that. My poor liver has been scanned to death. Liver and lungs. They check it, I don't know, it seems like every 6 weeks. It's not that often, but I'm sure I'm full of radiation. I'm surprised I don't explode. But it has yet to go to my liver. So I don't know why, but they do. If they can't, if it stays on my body, they do think that it will eventually get there.
Now,
But my saving grace has been the fact that I tolerate surgery exceptionally well. So they have been able to go in, and 4 times they've removed it. And I've been able to take all that radiation. I did very well with radiation. I don't do well with chemo. That's my big downfall. Because it's in the gut, I vomit my fool head off and I get incredibly sick. and dehydrated. Like, it really makes me sick.
What do you think is the biggest mistake people do when they have cancer and stuff?
You know, I don't know. I would, from what I've seen, is that they baby themselves too much. It's hard to push a sick body around. But for me, that was my go-to anyway. You know, I'm high energy, and I like people. I'm a people person, so I involve myself. But if I don't, I get depressed, and I don't want an antidepressant because it's depressing to be where I am. It's a very depressing thing to always face, like Monday I have a doctor's appointment, and you know, and I've just had a bunch of tests, and I walk in, and he'll probably give me more dismal news. So it's real easy to let your mind be consumed with yourself. So my antidote is to stay busy, you know, to walk, to bike, to be with people, to pour into others instead of self-absorbing. Don't get me wrong, I self-absorb and I feel sorry for myself, and I talked about myself way too much. I fall into that sinful trap. I'm not perfect, but it's something that I have been really convicted to pull out of as much as I can by the help of the Lord.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions? She's a good one to talk to because she's just so practical and she knows her stuff.
I've lived it.
Isn't there some research out there that says that they're figuring out now that the positive attitude is what does bring people through?
Every time.
And there's very little emotion that's coming through as she's telling her story. I'm amazed. I mean,
Well, you know, I had a friend who had stage 4 lung cancer. He did live 4 years. I never heard him complain. He was so positive, but he died. So I do think, this is my theory on it. My theory is that, you know, your body, the medical system, I don't know what part positive attitude has to do with it and emotion, but nevertheless, you have to live through it. So it sure makes your journey through it easier. You know, I don't know if it makes you heal faster, but a positive attitude gets you off the couch. You know, which makes you heal faster, right? So I think it's probably, if I were to guess, I'm sure not a researcher, but if I were to guess, I would guess a positive attitude ends up in being a result of a better lifestyle.
But also a good team. Like when I lost my colon and stuff, my guy, laparoscopic, you know, but also I went and got a second opinion because he said I would be out of commission for 3 to 5 months. And I'm like, dude, I'm like her. You have me for like 3 weeks to a month. Other than that, like I have 2 kids, special needs. 3 to 5 months, like it's not happening. So if you're not the best doctor, I did get a second opinion from a GP who was ready to slice me from here to here. And all these 70, 80-year-olds were in the hospital for 7 to 9 days, now risking infection, risking whatever. I was on full foods within, and they even said, oh, you're so lucky you have Dr. Naranian. He lets you do ice chips after, you know, most of these doctors won't even let that happen. And I was up and out of there within less than 48 hours I was home. And I can climb upstairs and go to bed.